Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time, the time of the unit review. The season has ended. I have ended Emperor. Let's get it. And so, much like my last unit review, I will basically be going over my units, how I have them geared, why I have them geared the way I do, kind of explain some of the matchups I use them in, and what I found to be good or bad personally, and then also probably what I've seen other people use as well that are good and bad, or, you know, kind of in between. This season was definitely rough. It was it was rough, but at the same time, I felt like I had more freedom in it. But that is due to my own gear, because my gear kind of lets me play in a little different ways than most people, because some of the stuff I do, you probably can't copy or replicate that easy. Some people can, but that's like very few. But anyways, yeah, let's kind of get into it. So, much like last time, I'll be kind of just going in order, really. So we will start off with Mr. Edward Elric. Now, for those of you that remember my last video of my unit review for Emperor, I believe it was Oath Season, if I'm not mistaken, I had my Ed on a pure damage build. He was meant for nuking cleave units. I kind of dropped that because for pretty much most of this season, I started pre-banning Ran, and then because of that, Ed didn't really serve any purpose in anti-cleave for me. Now, I mean, sure, like, there are still debuffs in cleaves, but it was kind of like since I started pre-banning Ran, I was barely ever cleaved. And then the times I was cleaved, Ed just wasn't really that good. Like if I got para-cleaved, most of the time, like, Ed wouldn't really do anything, whether he was on the nuker build or now on this injury build I have. So, I mean, yeah, he didn't really help me much at all. I kind of feel like he fell off pretty hard, at least this season for me. So I put him on injury gear because I saw him being used injury a lot in like standard matchups, slower matchups, sometimes even aggro, because, you know, there's like Senya, Blood Moon Haste, pretty bulky units that can be used anywhere. So I geared him for injury. On Golden Rose as well to give him that healing. I went HP next, so yeah, you can see I have pretty low crit damage, but I have a lot of HP and a lot of defense for the kind of stats he's at. So it's like, it's pretty good gear overall, but even with this, he really just didn't do anything for me. I don't think he's just that good right now. And I will say, even from my own personal experience fighting him, I was debuff cleaving basically the whole season, and I literally just debuff cleaved through Ed. I would just let Ed through the match, and I would just debuff him to death. Or I would have one unit that doesn't debuff, and they would take care of him, and then I just continue debuffing. Like, he really feels like Champion Zerato this season. Next season might be different, but he's in a rough spot, honestly. Like, yeah, you can definitely get those pocket pick wins with him for sure. I have seen like the nuker Ed build kind of coming back to fight cleavers. That's I mean, yeah, as long as like Ran's there, you know, like Ran Ludwig, I'm sure Ed will be, you know, he'll be a ban here and there, or, you know, guarantee win here and there. But overall, I felt like he's been pretty lackluster and kind of not great. Next up we have Hwayoung. She mega fell off. There's just too much of everything going on. I think everything this season was just faster than her. If you're going into a standard team and they have Carmen, you're probably not killing. If you're going into a Landy, you know, the way her damage works now, it's proportional to the enemy's attack, so, you know, you're probably not killing still. It was a really fast season, so people were picking like ML Poly, Janua, you know. There wasn't really much use case for her. I might have used her like once maybe, but I don't even know if I won. If you do want to look at my stats, this is what I got. Pretty good. It's the same It's the same gear that I've had her on since last season as well. Jacko, pretty good. Pretty good unit, definitely still solid in cleave. I personally didn't use her that much. I believe my E7 GG has me at about 3 games with her. Yeah, 3 games with her. It doesn't include the time she was banned though, okay? So E7 GG does not include like the match statistics. It doesn't include if she was banned. So that's basically how I picked her, is that every time I picked her, she was always just force banned, which is really good, honestly. It means that the draft was strong enough that Jacko being my last pick meant she had to be force banned. This is pretty alright gear on her. I keep swapping her around a bunch because, like, since she kept getting force banned, I was just taking the gear and giving it to other people, and then I brought her back to this for the end of the season. Definitely still really good. Definitely should still have her geared, honestly. I put her on Symbol, because I wasn't really using Zahak, and Zahak was holding my symbol, and I figured, you know, maybe if I try Ran cleaving and I defense break a Karina, it'd be nice to, you know, hit and kill them. So, you know, I went with symbol. You don't have to do that. I think most people go with like Merciless Glutton, her own artifact, or even Portrait, really. Next up, we have Fire Ravi. This character has been, very all over the place this season, I feel. So as you can see, mine's on a Destro build. I honestly would not recommend this at all unless you are only ever pairing her with ML Poly plus Laya or Cialilis. Basically, you always need 2 dual attackers in the draft if you want to draft her Destro. The reason I made her Destro was because counter set wasn't working for me, because as many people that watch my streams may know, counter set is my enemy. It is my biggest, like, bane of my existence is when I draft counter units. I will more than likely lose. It's really gotten on my nerves this season. But yeah, so me, I didn't really have much luck with Ravi, unfortunately. That doesn't mean she's bad though. I saw plenty of people get like hard carries with Ravi. She's definitely a solid unit. Being able to put injury on S3 and stuns, her S1 hitting really hard and giving the built-in heal. I went with the S1 EE because when I was on counter, as you know, counter pen, healing a bunch. I even tried her on lifesteal as a joke. Lifesteal, pen, S1 is like really, really big heals and it's really funny, but it wasn't really a viable build in the long run. Overall, good unit. Top tier, maybe not, but definitely strong. Next up, we have Shawl tier. Yeah, I don't like this unit. I had her geared really fast on a lot of damage, and she failed me about every time except for, you know, killing Aiden. People kind of stopped picking Spez. Nobody picks Rylet even after his buff. People kind of stopped picking Aiden, so yeah, there wasn't really much reason for me to ever use her. I'm not really a fan of Shawl tier, sorry. Next up, we have our boy Joshua. Jamal. Janua here, I have him geared 208 speed, 300 crit damage, 4.4k attack, Wind Rider, of course, speed torrent, because I don't really have the Destro gear, but I do have the speed gear. But yeah, I do like him being around 210 speed. Honestly, I would prefer to have him faster, but I'm also really a big fan of this damage here. Really cuts through everything like butter. But the faster Januas are really good around like 230, 240 for cleavers or high tempo aggro. 200 to 210 is like, it's kind of like a universal pick almost. He's a universal damage dealer. You can pick him in a standard match, aggro, cleave if you want to, really. Anything slower than like 200 feels a little scuffed unless maybe your ER. I know the ER Januas have been really popping off. They're extremely strong. I don't have the gear for it. If you can make a really good ER Janua, that is probably the best way to build him. It really screws up a lot of people when they bring somebody to like debuff him or strip him or something like that, and then they just get resisted, and then it's like, Guess I'll die then. It is going to change with ML Elyanov being introduced to the RTA next meta. I'm hoping for triple pre-bans. Please, Smilegate, please, triple pre-bans. I beg of you. We have our boy Crayola, same as last season, except I got him triple S now, so look at that attack. Very nice. Next up, we have my Knockwall. I swapped around her gear a bit. She used to be faster with more effectiveness. I found myself not really using her that much this season, but that's because of how I've been playing. I've been playing more aggressively, but it is definitely still very, very good to keep her geared. She has won me some games for sure. She is definitely still pickable 100%. Like, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of games where she just dominates everything. So even though I was going more aggro, still kept her geared. For me, she was a 4th, 5th pick normally. And that's kind of where she best shine, because it usually means that she's a force ban against the opponent, which means I can pick whatever else I want. Other players, you know, they have her about the same speed, 280, 290-ish. Some people run her on immunity to protect against... Are people doing it to protect against Ahmed Cleave? I think so. Ahmed Cleave popped up at the end of the season, and I'll get to that in a bit. Smilegate has yet to address a solid counter into her. My counter for her this season was take turn 1 and kill her. That's not a great answer. That's not a great solution. When the game's answer to a unit is take turn 1 or you're probably gonna lose, that's a very, very large sign of this unit needing a heavy balancing adjustment. Much like ML Luna, who also released. I pre-banned ML Luna the entire season because she's stronger than Knockwall. Knockwall I can kind of deal with. Luna's faster and a bit stronger. It's really unfortunate though. I say this, but it's really unfortunate because I don't like when there's units that are this way, like Knockwall or ML Luna, where they're so strong you feel the need to pre-ban them, because it's like, I want to see other units in the game. I want to fight against them. But when the game is so broken and the balancing is so bad, you can't fight them. It's unfortunate. Veronica, pretty okay, like pocket pick, you know, niche pick. At the end of the season, BBK got her Immortality EE, or Bloodblade Karen. So Veronica's kind of alright because of that. She CR pushes whenever somebody's got Immortal, so into BBK, she's not bad. Not like an exact counter, but not bad. Especially if people are taking it for like anti-cleave BBK and you take Veronica, then that's really good. Then Veronica's probably gonna help you beat that BBK. Ooh, Festive Ida. Now this is a kind of fun one. She's not a top tier unit, but she's also not a bottom tier unit. I would say she's rather strong. The problem is she feels a little niche, and there's a few issues with her kit. Now what I mean by that is the way her kit works. You have to basically unstealth her for her to get her shyness buff, which is then going to strip enemies of 2 buffs, CR push them back, and then decrease their defense. Super strong, but the problem with that is she can 15% the strip. Say someone takes ML Poly into you and straight up just 15% it, well, there goes your shyness. Your plan is probably ruined now. You're not gonna strip them, and not stripping them means you probably can't land your S3, which is silence and unbuffable. Very, very huge part of her kit. It is extremely good to have silence and unbuffable, but yeah, if her S2 gets kind of screwed over by 15%, or maybe you buff stack too much, you had Landy plus barrier plus, you know, stealth, then, you know, the stealth stays, you're still kind of screwed. But where she shined, she was incredibly good. I think I went pretty even with her win rate. It was definitely a lot of fun using her. I run her on book at about 240 speed. I think it's a decent mid-speed area where I can have my other units go before her. So if I get counterattacked, then, you know, like maybe Landy will counterattack, hit my Ida, knock her out of stealth, and then my Ida takes the turn, strips, and all that. Reason I use book, I think it's best in slot on her. Because what you can do is, first off, her S1 does do a debuff, meaning if there's an A Tywin on the enemy team, you can Soul Burn, debuff the A Tywin, which is proccing his little, cleanse, and then say you have Shyness, Shyness strips everything from the enemies, and then you can put your S3 on, right? So, even if A Tywin's not there, you S1 Soul Burn, it procs the Shyness, so you strip everyone, and then it allows you to do S3. So I think Book is definitely her best in slot by far. I honestly don't think any other artifact comes close for her compared to Book. But I mean, sure, if the enemy doesn't have a team that's gonna have immunity or, in need of any stripping, then I suppose you don't need Book. But playing the season with her, I think more often than not, I found myself needing Book. So yeah, that's my thoughts on her. Fun unit, hard to play everywhere, but she is strong, just not top tier. Mercedes, she did get a buff. Didn't really use her that much, but I mean the buff is not bad. It's all right. She got a damage increase too. It's all right. This is how I run her. If anyone's curious about making a similar Mercedes, this is good. This is good for anti-cleave. It's pretty bulky. It's an HP boot on counter. Getting HP on her is like impossibly hard. Same with defense, but her artifact reduces a lot of damage, so that's why this is still a considerable amount of bulk. All right, next up we have not one but two Fire Polituses. I built a aggro cleave Politus with effectiveness, just in case I need to strip Janua. I can damage him, proc his immortal, and strip it all in the same S2. Or if I wanted to land my S3 blind. I found having the effectiveness was really nice, because landing that blind on tanks that usually have like 100 ER, especially things like Albedo, you blind Albedo's S2 can't strip anyone if it misses. I think it was really huge to have that. Otherwise, we have our Degen Politus, which is on Abyssal Crown, basically more for standard matches, fighting into things like Janua and whatnot, or into ML Poly. Getting stuns, blinds, unbuffables is really good. I have her on a decent amount of ER. It's not that great. There's definitely better Polituses, but I'm 231 speed, trying to balance a lot of things at once. I'd say it's a pretty relatable Politus. But yeah, overall, I did kind of like having two Polituses built. I don't think you need to have two Polituses built. Kind of just figure out what you want your playstyle to be. I found myself wanting to go aggro more, and I ended up finding out that I like the Book Poly more than the Degen Poly, because, I'm just playing faster in general. And then at the end of the season, I did start cleaving, so, Lethe, she got an EE, wasn't really enough. It's not really doing anything for her, unfortunately. If you're one of the people that can have like a 300 speed Lethe, hey, props to you. But outside of that, I mean, yeah, it's a nice little HP increase, and it's nice that you can't be countered on the S3. Like, that's pretty huge. I still just never found anywhere to pick her, though. It's kind of sad. Luna, that's right. I don't have ML Luna, but I do have Blue Luna. This was fun. I like this build. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't pick her all that much, but like, these are pretty good stats, pretty good bulk. And I ran Pipit Lance on her because it's just, it's a lot of extra damage, and it gives her some sustain as well. I have her on her, classic skin that came out. I thought that was really cool that they added in the classic Luna skin. It's your call if you don't like it or not. I ain't judging. But yeah, since she's got, built-in crit resistance, and then, she gets defense and all that, this is a good amount of bulk for her. And then the Pipit Lance, yeah, just kind of helped me out with staying alive. I decided to keep the extra turn EE on her rather than the S1 CR push, because the few times I did find myself playing her, it was kind of like by the time it was her turn, it was a lot better for me to just get a kill with that S3 and then have a follow-up S1. That's how I used her anyways. She's just kind of a fun unit. Not really saying anyone should build her or shouldn't build her. Your call. I think she's fun. I wish I could use her more. Karina, I have not changed her one bit. Didn't even increase her artifact. I don't think I picked her. No, I picked her like one single game this entire season. All right, we have the legendary Brig, the Brigojin, in honor of my homie Hinojin. Yeah, I built him for expos actually, but I found out that I can have him on lifesteal with pen set. These are like really good stats, by the way. I can show the gear here. I mean, 92, you know, it's like, it's pretty relatable, but it's also pretty good. This is an event craft originally meant for APOC. This is horrible. But like, he gets 50 free effectiveness, so I can still use this in expos, and I can also use this in RTA. I think this is incredibly good and incredibly fun in RTA. Being on Elbrus and then being able to heal himself while having a decent amount of bulk, because, you know, his base stats are pretty, they're pretty much like a lot of other knights that have like this sign. Kind of like, you know, Charles and stuff, Mort. But yeah, he was a lot of fun to play when I was able to play him. Really good into Genua. I even took him into Green Celine once and kind of baited the Green Celine because I knew what I was doing, and I knew that like I had already gotten an Elbrus, right? So he got, you know, the 25 fighting spirit, which then let me do my S2 for 50 fighting spirit, and then I did S1 again, which then procs his the follow-up S3 that targets the highest attack. And that went into Green Celine and ended up hitting her and killing her, which, like, yeah, it's a 50-50 chance, but I just think it's a cool thing to mention that, like, I took a Ice Knight with a non-attack into Green Celine and used him to beat her. I just think it's like pretty ironic and pretty funny. Definitely a good unit though. He's definitely strong, just yeah, with the way the meta's turned out and such, it got hard to pick him. But early on, it was a lot of fun. Terranor Guard, didn't pick him at all because, you know, banning Ran and stuff, Cleave wasn't that prevalent for me. But if you want to build him, these are his stats. I think he's funny. Cleavers actually force ban him from time to time. Just note that if they don't have enough defense breaks or anything, they might just ban this guy if you pick him. Elvira, I kind of completely stopped using her. Yeah, even into Landy Euphine. Not really any good spots to pick her. You know, Sirmia disappeared completely, except for in Cleave, ML Sirmia that is. Landy, Euphine, they're just gonna kill your team anyways. They don't need Fighting Spirit. They don't need their S3s. Landy, Euphine is just gonna kill you anyways if you can't break through, and Elvira just kind of takes up a slot. If she doesn't do enough on her own, then you're kind of just picking her for nothing, and you're gonna end up dying anyway. Peyra, I didn't really pick her that much, but it is good to have her geared. I have her geared at 301 with 150 effectiveness. Honestly, not crazy stats at all. She was kind of on my leftover-ish kind of gear. And I did put her on Sword of Winter Shadow, Rand's artifact, because I thought it was funny to take 10 souls from the enemy. It's kind of just like me bullying them and taking their souls. Sometimes I still end up losing anyways, though. It is what it is, but definitely good to have Peyra geared. She's really strong right now with being able to unbuffable ML Poly, Ahmed teams as well. Definitely came back this season really, really good. She was honestly like a #1 Cleave unit, I think, especially if Ran was pre-banned. Just everybody had Peyra this season. I just didn't play her that much because I chose not to. I just didn't want to. The pretty big difference between not wanting to and then just like a unit not being that good. She was very good. I just didn't want to play her. This Ran was not intended to be used for racing or anything like that. This Ran is purely like, yeah, you can see he's on effectiveness. He's 298. It's very, very like relatable gear. I have him on Oath Key as well. I mainly just used him as a debuffer at the end of the season because when I stopped pre-banning him, I started pre-banning a Euphine. And so because of that, I decided it would be best for me to try to take Ran at times where somebody might be cleaving me or they go way too tank down. Then I can use him with Oath Key to like hit albedos and such, land the defense breaks because I have effectiveness. And I would pair him specifically with ML Sirmia on speed set. I'll get to my ML Sirmia later, but yeah, I basically used ML Surmia cleave with this Ran here, which is why you see him as like a very scuffed build. Maybe not the best build to use for him, but again, I wasn't really picking him that much. It was a niche situation. This is my Arya. I believe it's the same build that I used last season. I have her on Victorious Flag with low crit damage, but a good amount of ER, good amount of defense, and pretty high HP as far as Aryas go. Basically, you pair her with Carmen, and as long as your tuning goes right, and the enemy doesn't have like a one-shot unit to kill Arya, if you can get Arya to do her S3 and then Carmen to make her invincible, it's pretty much just GG from there. Like, if they don't have an extremely bulky team, Arya plus Carmen, you can kind of just shut down anything anyone's doing if they don't have a way to punch through. Very solid unit, just kind of niche, you know? We have made it to what I've sort of been up to. Not the whole season, only the last 2 weeks. That's right. I kind of became an Ahmed cleaver. See, I was kind of on a deadline. I wasn't really going to be able to play that much on the last 2 days of the season. And so because of that, I thought, well, maybe it's fine to just use a little bit of a cheat code and re-gear my Ahmed to her full potential as far as my account goes. I was very lucky on her banner, her very first banner when it came out, so yes, I do have a triple S and I do have a plus 30 artifact. I did not use slates or bottles. I was just incredibly lucky, and at the time I had a lot of bookmarks and a lot of Skystone. So yeah, I have her geared 285 speed, 220 ER. Now as I go through the pieces, you'll kind of see that like it is fast gear, but it's not my fastest gear. And see, at the end of the season, a lot of people geared her extremely fast, you know, 300 speed if they could, or faster, for a cleave, and, you know, of course that makes sense. But kind of what I figured out, for me to be able to use her to cleave, is that when you pick her, everybody's already aware that she has a slower base speed than most openers. So if somebody was going to cleave your Ahmed, they were going to do it anyways because they know that like Ran is faster, Payer is faster. They know that. So if you pick her and it becomes a race, you're probably gonna lose anyways. But a lot of people didn't end up racing me. Some did, yes, and I lost about half the time. Half the time I was able to win because I draft like Senya or Haste Anchor, but yeah, so I figured out that I don't need to make her as fast as possible, so I gave her my premium ER gear again, which she originally had in the first place until I gave it to Elena. But basically, what I like about having her this high ER while still being a pretty good speed is that I'm still outspeeding things like Lias and such, right? And also being at 220 ER, I would take her into Zeos, and most people no longer use high effectiveness Zeos. Pretty much everybody goes hybrid or zero effectiveness. So I would, you know, slam Ahmed third pick, and then I could just feel people hesitating about picking their Zeo because they know it doesn't have effectiveness, and I know they don't have effectiveness. So they would take their Zeo third pick or fourth pick or something like that into my Ahmed, and, you know, they would just fail. They'd just fail to debuff her. And then at that point, it's basically GG. I get to continue with my BBK cleave because they couldn't stop my Ahmed, and then the game's over. The Zeo was a dead pick. I mean, same thing with like other openers, right? Like if they took Ran, or if they took like ML Poly, but they didn't really have a bridge to go in between, like my Ahmed and their opener. Well, my Ahmed's living their S3, of course, and I also have ER. So then, I mean, I can still just cleave them anyways. I can just take my Ahmed, ignore the Rand's S3 if I ban their bridge, or if they don't take a bridge, and I just continue on as normal. Especially if I pair her with, yeah, I did a lot of Ahmed, BBK, Arby, Arbiter Vildred. You know, then Arbiter is gonna revive, and, you know, it's just an even bigger threat. The way I drafted her, though, was I would go... I did try Blood Moon Haste first pick. I don't really like picking him. Again, he's a counter unit. Counter units aren't really, they don't pair well with me. But more often than not, I would take ML Senya first pick. I love using her for aggro and all that. I'll get to her soon enough. And then Fire Politis second with her damage build on Book. I think that's kind of what most Omid cleavers did, was Anchor plus Fire Poly Book. Then third pick, you take Omid as your lock-in spot. And then your fourth, fifth have to be the heavy nukers. And it could be anywhere from like BBK, it could be Arbiter Vildred, it could be Gala Lilius. I heard some people re-geared Opsig even to pair with Omid. I didn't, but I heard it was there. I also took Janua with her. Really just any kind of heavy damage unit I could find was a good 4/5 pick for her. You just kind of have to be aware of if your DPS are really slow, make sure they don't have things like DDR that are going to cut in between your push and then just sleep your team, and then it's like, well, what am I even cleaving for? But yeah, overall, had a blast using her. Very strong at the moment. I don't know about next season. Things could change rapidly. She kind of only came back because BBK got her Immortality EE, and then RB got his EE as well. So like 2 of the classic nukers came back into the game, and that's why Omid is back, is because the 2 classic AoE nukers came back at full strength, and that allowed her to come back as well. Next up, we have my blue Elena, which, like I mentioned, my premium gear, I swapped over to Omid. So I gave Elena my leftover. I think a lot of this came from like Sage Ball. I never really found a use for Sage Ball this season, like at all. So I just gave it to Elena. 260 speed, pretty good. 200 ER, it's all right. Doctor's Bag, definitely, I still prefer it more than the others. Soul Constellation is good on her though. A lot of people use Soul Constellation on her to mess up with people playing ML Luna. I just completely pre-banned ML Luna. So I just kept running Doctor's Bag. But Soul Constellation is completely viable on her. It is still preferred to have her as fast as you can though. This is my Laya. I believe she is the same as last season. I don't think I changed her at all. Didn't really pick her all too much. I would sometimes pick her as my anchor, or I would take her if I wanted to do the Laya Knockwall team. Laya Knockwall team's like really stupidly strong into anybody slow. So yeah, definitely still worth keeping her geared for sure, especially if you're not an aggro player, you're not a cleaver. Laya is definitely like a must-have geared if you have her. Her Sweet Miracle, I did bottle this. If you find yourself using her a lot, definitely worth bottling this artifact, because this artifact is insanely good. Usual speed range is like 250 is the slow end. Fast end is like anywhere up to 280. Very few people have her 290 or faster, so you don't need to worry about that. Zahak, I kind of slowed him down at the end of the season and stole his gear, and I stole his artifact for Jacko. I had him like 280 though. 280, snipe a few Aidens here and there when they were picked. I prefer him over Shaltier for sure. But hey, that's just me. I'm sure people are gonna disagree with that and say Shaltier's better. Albedo, I have her geared to be Aureus. I was running her 3F last season, I believe. This season I did swap her over to Aureus. I think it's incredibly strong because her damage mitigation is literally stronger than Carmen's when it comes to critical hits. So yeah, if Carmen's banned, or you just want to take Albedo because the enemy's taking like critical hit units, she's insanely strong. I didn't have a protection set to give her, but you can definitely run her just like you would Carmen. If you have one of the crazy Destro Albedos that can one-shot an ML Ludwig on a S2, you go for it. I don't have that gear though. Christy, I don't think I picked her once this season, but there are some ER cheeses out there. You can definitely still go the ER cheese route. I think Christy's still the best for that if you want to make like ER Celine, like ML Celine. Politica, didn't really find too many spots to pick her, but this is how I have her geared. 22.5 HP, 253 speed, 90 effectiveness, plus the effectiveness from her artifact. So, she's got some decent amount of effectiveness. She should be able to kill things like, Aiden or anything, or like ML Landy as well, especially if they don't have Carmen. We have my Green Celine. Picked her like crazy at the beginning of this season. I was running like Zeo Cleaves with a Green Celine second pick, so I'd go like Anchor, Green Celine, Zeo. In my opinion, it worked really great, at least for how I used her, because it's like You know, if they try to take, say, Laya or something like that, or they take DDR, well, then I'm Zeo cleaving that, and if they try to press their buttons, if I don't kill them already, then, you know, they have to worry about Celine. And as you can see, I have her on a, like, very mega nuke build, so very, very rarely did anything ever survive the S3, especially if they don't have Albedo or Carmen. She's on an attack boot that rolled a lot of flat attack with a little bit of speed. A lot of fun for me to use her. I kind of stopped picking her towards the end of the season because, you know, I guess things were just getting more aggro slash cleavy. We have my Gala. I actually did find myself picking Gala a lot this season, especially with my Zeo cleave, with my Ahmed cleave and all that. 271 speed, 4.2k attack, 300 crit damage, plus 30 Wind Rider, S rank imprint. This is like pretty good stats. Some people would consider this like really good stats. That was until I saw like Elf Mage's Gala and a few other people's Galas where they have these exact same damage stats, but they are 20 speed faster at 290. That was kind of heartbreaking, but either way, I mean, yeah, I think she was really good to have, especially being this fast. If she didn't get a kill, she was still CR pushing my team, so whatever aggro unit I had coming up next could help get kills and whatnot. Violets, whatever, but here's the stats if you want to copy them. Lulucar, I did actually re-gear her. I found like maybe 2 spots to pick her in the season, but it like was insanely good. People started picking like C. Lilius Landy again, and when they take things like C. Lilius Landy and not like these crazy penetration units, they're really opening themselves up to older counters that people kind of forgot about. Ocean Breeze Luluca is one of those counters people forgot about, and you can even use her into ML Haste because if you have effectiveness, you're blinding and silencing the ML Haste. That's pretty huge value. So yeah, she became a punish unit for anyone taking like C. Lilius Landy and not really going the modern day aggro. This is my Rowana. As you can see, as a 4 times Emperor player, I have the best of the best gear on her. Absolutely insane. I know this is not relatable gear at all. You guys probably can't even come close to this. It's just too good. I'm sorry, I'm kind of a whale sometimes. But in all seriousness, definitely have your Rowanas geared at all times. You never know when you're going to be able to pick her or when she's going to pop off. She's very good into all the Landy dual attack teams and whatnot. If you have Mitt. If you have Mitt, of course. I stopped using C. Lilius completely. I was not one of the Landy C. Lilius pickers. That was not interesting to me at all. Didn't want to do it. Did not do it. I think most people have their C. Liliuses pretty slow as well this season, so I kind of bullied a lot of them. I know Light kind of brought C. Lilius back because Light was doing like C. Lilius Landy plus Kitty Clarissa really strong into knockwall teams, but like again, I wasn't really using knockwall. I was going more aggro cleave. And so I never fought Light using this comp, but I did fight a lot of people kind of copying that comp. It didn't work out good for any of them. I kind of just cleaved right through them and called it a day. So yeah, be wary if you're gonna do that comp. It's good into the slower players, good into the knockwalls. If anyone goes aggro on you or tries to punish you, you are probably gonna get punished. Just putting it out there. LQC, I actually found a use for her this season, believe it or not. I geared her like this, pretty like mid stats really. Like 240 is fast, yeah, and some of these pieces are pretty high gear score, but like as you can see, I'm 3.3 attack and 239 speed, and I'm 85 crit chance. If you run it in damage calc, it kills like pretty much any Blood Moon Haste or any AU Fiend if there's no Aureus holder at all. And that's kind of where I used her. I run her on Tachi, basically only picked her as like a 4/5 pick into like Blood Moon Haste or DDR or something like that if I had Ahmed. So yeah, I basically just used her for Ahmed cleave. Every single time I picked her, if they had Blood Moon Haste, they force banned her. I think there was one time they didn't. I one-shot their Blood Moon Haste, and then they did have other units that could technically hold out the battle, but they just left. They decided that, yeah, they took the gamble, and they lost. Yeah, pretty funny. And yeah, I did, like, you may look at the crit and be like, oh, but you're only gonna crit dark units. Well, yeah, it turns out that's all I needed to do. If I got the hit on the dark unit, game was over. People just kind of left at that point, so it didn't really matter past that. Here we have my A Tyween. This gear is pretty relatable, I'd say. This gear it's kind of eh. I just used him as an Auris holder above 200 speed. He was insanely strong this season. Very, very, very strong unit. He came back super hard. Insane pairing with Albedo, insane pairing with DDR. Decent counter against Knockwall and such. Insane pairing with ML Poly. Honestly, he was just everywhere. I think he was probably one of the most picked units this entire season, just in general by everyone, including myself. As far as the builds, it's kind of up to you. A lot of people did like fast ones, like 230 up to 260 speed, if they're going like aggro with him. I kind of used him for aggro, but he kind of failed me because he wasn't that fast, and I didn't really have anyone tuned to pair with him. So yeah, just be aware if you do want to use him proactively, you gotta make sure you're actually tuning your account towards him. If you want to use him reactively, he's good into cleave, especially like I guess the way to beat Ran cleave is you take a Tywin AOL, and that full stops his debuffs. I'm not really familiar with the draft though, because again, I was pre-banning Ran the whole season. He's really good into Bryceria though. For those of you worried about Bryceria because she got an EE giving her 10 more speed, making her essentially a subpar Ran, a Tywin is very good into her because Bryceria and Ran have their debuffs swapped in the order. So a Tywin will cleanse the Stigma from Ran but leave defense break. A Tywin will cleanse the defense break from Bryceria but leave the unbuffable. And pretty much that's all you need. If you cleanse the defense break from Briar, usually the Briar cleave is kind of over at that point, more or less. Bellion, I wasn't really able to pick her too much this season, unfortunately. I think I got a few good games with her. I did swap her to 3F, but I am still on a crit build. I don't think you need to do that. I think if you get rid of crit completely, just go full HP and 3F, I think she's incredibly strong. A lot of people ran her on speed set even. 3F on Bellion is super good, especially because 3F does proc a second time on her follow-up S1. So you get 2 3F procs that are completely AoE hitting, 4 units twice. It's pretty insane damage. Here's my Carmen. Pretty relatable gear, as you can see. She's good for overall damage, which is really nice because there's a lot of things that don't crit, like Blood Moon Haste and whatnot. All right, now we get on to one of my favorite units this season. That's right, one of my favorite units this season. Much like Ahmed, and I haven't gotten to my other favorite just yet, but we'll get there. I do have Ahmed on a plus 33F. I did bottle this. The way I had bottles was, as you saw earlier, my Karina did not have any bottles in the Rocket Punch. Yeah, because I didn't bottle that, so I bottled this. And I feel like it was worth it. I have my Senya geared with ER, which you may think is pretty odd considering I was going high tempo, right? I was going, aggro, I was going cleave. Honestly, I was pretty content with her being 190 with ER the whole season, honestly. Regardless of how much tempo I had. Now, would I have one more if I had her 250? Maybe. A lot of people did have her like 240, 250 speed with, like 33k HP or more. But I really like this because, she gives speed buff on the S1, right? Which is then, it's a buff for ML Haste to counter and strip. So basically, having ER Senya, I was countering pretty much most Blood Moon Haste, even when they had their Grudge proc, because not that many people build effectiveness on him, so every time I got a resist, huge value of Haste not being able to proc his follow-up and then healing his whole team for a ton of health. For those that watch my streams at the beginning of the season, I did have her on a Torrent build. Yeah, I had her on 34k HP with Torrent. It was funny, but it really just came down to I kept getting stripped by Blood Moon Haste. I kept getting, debuffed and whatnot by the low-end debuffers. Next up, we have my Landy. She's the same build as last season. I gave her back her Elbrus, And boy, oh boy, do I have news for you on how I felt about her this season. This season, this Landy unit, let me tell you, I could not hate her more. I hate this unit so much. She has failed me at every single angle, time and time again. The only way to use her is with the dual attack comps, but I don't like doing that because that means Landy has to be your center focus, your third pick unit, and I don't want to rely on Landy anymore. I did for the previous seasons. It wasn't fun. It was horrible. It was a nightmare. It was a headache. I hate this unit. I did lose a lot of games to her, but then I lost even more games from picking her. So, you know, it's kind of like a double-edged sword where I always lose either way. It was like an inverted double-edged sword, so both blades were pointing at me while I was holding it. LPK. It's been like over a year since she came out. I just got her recently. I geared her on my best DPS gear. She failed to kill a knockwall that didn't have any mitt, and I promptly ungeared her. And yeah, I already invested a lot of mola into her, so, yeah. ML Celine, I picked her one time this season, and my win rate with her, one time. 100% win rate, that's right. Best unit in the game, baby. I did mention earlier, though, people were doing ER cheeses with her plus Christie. That lasted about a week. It was good for about a week. Angel of Light Angelica, that's right, DPS Angel of Light Angelica. You're wondering, man, does she actually do crazy good damage in RTA? And I'll tell you straight up, nope, this is a meme build. I used it in the new Hall of Trials against AU Fiend. Had her doing a solid small amount of damage per S1, that's right. Architect Leica, I like keeping her geared, honestly. Here's my Solly. I keep her geared 250-ish speed, moderate bulk, fairy tale for the strip, and plus a little damage. I have her on a decent amount of ER. I found it come in handy a few times. High effectiveness. She's one of my units that I love having high effectiveness on. I definitely think it's 100% worth it because there's so many ER cheesers in the game right now that are picking Aria or just anything with a lot of ER. So if I can debuff their whole teams with this, 100% doing it. Sage Vivian. So, as you guys know, Sage Vivian got buffed. Alright, moving on. We have my Dragon King Sharon. I think this is how I had her geared last season as well. 206 effectiveness, just like Solly. I love debuffing the heavy ER teams. Now, I will say, a lot of enemy teams this season were DDRA Tywin, so a sleep and a stun. Both things that proc Sharon. Both of those things beat ML Sharon. That's right. I think more often than not, I would pick Sharon into DDRA Tywin, and I would lose. Because all they have to do is wait for the right timing on the CR bar to where she's not gonna cut, and then I die. Hey, maybe I'm just a bad player though, what do I know? Bunny Dom. She's alright. She kind of fell off this season, honestly. Even into people using extra attacks. Even into like Knockwall and stuff. Everyone just had Laya Knockwall. Everyone had ML Poly plus an extra attack or something like that. There was just something, bro, that like Bunny Dom just didn't do anything, really. Like even into Ahmed Cleave. Now this is an interesting piece of advice I can give you guys, or you know, just knowledge I can share. Being the Ahmed Cleaver this season, I had a lot of people pick Bunny Dom into me, and what I found out was, yeah, you do Ahmed's extra turn, you give the enemy team skill null and immunity, but the way that I Ahmed cleaved, much like most Ahmed cleavers, it didn't matter at all. Because what the draft is, let's say, Senya Anchor, then Polly, then Ahmed, then say BBK Arby. With the way my tuning works is regardless of who I S3 with Ahmed to give the attack buff and whatnot to, the Fire Poly would take the turn before Arby or BBK anyways. So I would just use my Polly's S3 to break all the skill nullifiers. Don't care if I get countered or anything because I have BBK RB. And then yeah, I would just continue my Ahmed cleave. They would all die. And Bunny Dom is relatively low health and defense compared to, you know, most other units. So if BBK's there, she's, you know, getting a free kill on Bunny Dom and then killing someone else. What if that just tells me to start banning the Fire Poly then? I mean, it's kind of the same thing, really. Then I have RB BBK, and if I want to just push up RB, since he does less damage than my BBK, surprising, then I would just, you know, have RB do his S3, clear the skill nulls, and then BBK goes and wipes the team. Hot Cheeto Man. He sucks. Malona. Pretty much good into the Landy teams, and that's about it. She kind of struggled to work anywhere else, but even into Landy teams, you need a lot of bulk, or you need like Green Rowana or something like that. I thought it was really hard to use her this season without her just getting targeted and killed right away. Maken, kind of the same fate as Malona, unfortunately. As you can see, I got crazy stats on him. Yeah, this is like one of the godliest bulky MLKens you can find. He's amazing into anti-cleave like Ludwig cleave, but yeah, I just couldn't pick him anywhere. I was pre-banning Rand most of the seasons. I barely ran into Ludwig being picked. Yeah, I just didn't get to play him at all. Kind of unfortunate. He's not really good in standard anymore because there's too much stuff like, you know, Laya, Knockwall, so on and so forth, Janua. Like, you can't really compete with those. Here is my Rat with a Gat. Urban Shadow Shoe. She's alright. I just kind of used her like this the whole season. I got pretty good stats. Like, this is an HP neck with some crit damage and whatnot. And, you know, I'm missing a little bit of crit chance. Overall, I don't really think it mattered. I know most people went the ER route with her. I didn't want to take my Elena / Ahmed gear for that. So I left her on the DPS Proof of Valor version compared to the ER Bastion of Hope version. FCC, Smilegate, where's the buff? Where's the EE? I know people are like, oh, she had her season. She was super good for like 2 years. Well, Rand's been good for like 4 years, okay? I'm kind of tired of seeing Rand. Why do I still have to look at Rand? Why can't I look at FCC? Don't make her Albedo though. Don't make her Albedo though. I'm not trying to get the next season a tank down. Just give me, make her aggro. Make her aggro and I'll be happy. Here is my Arbiter Bildred, RB Descending Blade. Can you hear the approaching ruin? He's pretty good. Speed set, attack boot, as you could probably guess. 4.6, 300. Basket. I think Basket's definitely the way to go for him. I did get the EE. It only rolled 10% instead of 14, but hey, I'll take it. That's better than 7. This EE made him incredibly strong. It's a lot of extra damage. You get 30% extra attack plus evasion. It's honestly a really big revamp to him. So he's not uber god tier unstoppable, but he's also not like a joke pick anymore. He's also not someone you can just ignore. He will actually nuke your team if you're not prepared. With him being 300 crit damage, I like him being 300 crit damage because my Ahmed, as you know, I'll show real quick. I'll just go right back. Ahmed's artifact does have a chance of giving crit damage buff, and if I get that crit damage buff, I'm actually getting more damage value than if I did a Destro RB or a Destro BBK and I was 350 crit damage. Specifically because I'm Ahmed cleaving with a crit damage chance, you know, to proc, 300 crit damage is much more valuable to me than, you know, the 350 crit damage build. And then yeah, right on next into my BBK. Hands down, probably in my top 5 favorite units of the season, in no particular order. But yeah, this BBK, insanely strong, insanely fun to use with the new Immortal EE. 100% recommend this for anyone cleaving or aggro or anti-cleave. It's always the Immortality EE. Before I thought, hey, maybe it's one of these other ones. Nope, the Gab's useless. You only get it after your S3, so it's like, why bother? You're getting attack buff anyways. It's only 20% more attack. It's not worth it. The S3 damage, I theorize maybe cleavers could make use of that and don't need the extra immortal. No, just get the extra immortal. You're gonna be doing enough damage on your S3, trust me. But as you can see with my stats, I do have, this is probably not relatable at all for like anybody. I am triple torrent, that's right. I have triple torrent with 110 ER, 4.2k attack, 305 crit damage. Now, you're probably asking, oh, well, I mean, you're triple torrent already, why bother with the ER? Honestly, 110 ER, everybody I've talked to says, oh, 110 ER, that's nothing, there's no point in having it. That is so far from the truth. Now, yeah, it's true, there are a lot of openers that have a lot of effectiveness and whatnot, but like, into those Blood Moon Hastes that don't have a lot of effectiveness, or, you know, it becomes 50-50 area, huge value having the 110 ER. Fighting Albedos that don't have much effectiveness, huge value, they can't strip my immortality. You know, low effectiveness DPS units like, you know, like say Arby or something, they try to blind me, they can't. It's like, since I'm already cleaving, I'm going the aggro route, I don't need 200 ER, I don't need 150 ER, I don't even need 130 ER. 110 is like the perfect spot. 100, I could argue, is maybe too low because it does become more of a 50-50 if someone has like, you know, wasted stats and no effectiveness or whatever. 110 feels like the sweet spot for this build where she like had just the right amount of ER, but it didn't take away from my damage value at all. And yeah, as you can see, 300 crit damage, so I can still get the crit damage buff and have a ton of value. I did opt to go Shepherd of the Hollow. Reason being, you know, she's of course going to be 1 HP at some point, so that's 24% extra damage on top of triple torrent set. So I'm getting 54% extra damage on my BBK. That's a lot. That's a lot, especially with crit damage attack buff. I quite literally nuked Albedo lane D teams. I took BBK into lane D teams ignoring their anti-crit. Like, I just didn't care. More often than not, I just win that straight up because all I need is like a single crit and then I can just kill everyone. Like I barely lost into the super tanky teams. It was really uncommon for me to lose into the Albedo teams, the Carmen teams, Landy with anti-crit. I pretty much won all of them, including like Senya frontline. You know, like Senya Blood Moon Haste and whatnot. Senya gives the big barrier. I still barely lost those. Like, this unit, insane, and these stats I have are just way too good to not use her into like every team I can. And then not only that, but the 20% evasion is really good because, you know, like I was saying about the ER, sure, sometimes people do have effectiveness. I actually won a lot of games because this 20% evasion procced and they missed their strip. So then yeah, you could argue, oh, but your ER is too low. Yeah, but I have a chance of dodging. And you can say 20%'s not a lot. You're right. This dodged, my BBK dodged more than my RB, more than my Aiden. It's kind of funny, honestly. But yeah, like, basically what I'm doing with this build is I'm stacking variables of RNG, which is usually beneficial in this game, considering the state of it. So, you know, I have a chance to resist, I have a chance to evade. I'm basically just stacking win cons that may or may not happen. Which is better than having 0 win cons that will not happen because you don't have evasion, you don't have ER. Alright, so I do have my BBK stats here. And what do we got here? That's right. We have Bloodblade Karen at 65 wins, 35 losses. 65% win rate using these stats the entire time. That's pretty good. That's pretty solid. And that includes the losses I got during the testing phases when I wasn't Ahmed cleaving, because I was using her like this before I brought in Ahmed. So even with a lot of like testing phasing and whatnot, this is a really good win rate. And as you can see, The league average win rate for Emperor was 54% win rate with BBK for the season. I'm chilling here with 65, so I kind of knew what I was doing with this. Not that I normally consider win rate a sort of viable measurement. I do have some opinions on making everything about win rate, but this is just to show that like I started picking her at the end of the season the moment she got her EE, and since that moment she's been popping off for me. That's mainly what I want to say with the win rate. You don't have to trust win rate all the time, especially if it's like, you know, a lot of testing with a lot of different team comps and all that. But anyways, that's a different rabbit hole. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for my #1 favorite unit to use this season. Pirate Flan. That's right. For any of you watching my streams, you of course know I did this almost the entire season. I only stopped in the last 2 weeks to do the Ahmed cleave because I was on a bit of a time crunch for IRL matters. And I couldn't really do too much playing on the last 2 days. So the last 2 weeks I swapped to Ahmed cleave, but I've had Pirate Flan gear the entire time, and I used her like this the entire season, and I consistently stayed in Emperor while using her like this. I have her 290 speed, which, you know, to a lot of people at first glance, you're gonna be like, wait, that's insane. What do you mean you just have her 290 speed? That doesn't sound possible. It's okay, guys. She has Flitica base speed. And yeah, Flitica at 290 is still quite a lot. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's like easy to obtain for everybody. What I am saying is that like people don't realize she is 114 base speed. People think she's like 109 or something like that, and I'm like some crazy fast speed demon. But no, actually, she's Flitica base speed. She gets free 50 effectiveness, and I have her on an attack neck, 20 speed, and a 20 speed effectiveness ring. So yeah, it is kind of hard to reach these stats, don't get me wrong. But I did use her as a consistent opener throughout the season with my Zeo cleave that I mentioned before. Basically, how I would use her is I would use her generally as a 4th or 5th pick, but sometimes I would pick her 3rd and lock her in, especially if the enemy team was slow. I took her into basically every Laya Knockwall team, or like every Laya DDR team or DDR Knockwall team. I would take her into all those because I knew for a fact the Knockwall probably wasn't outspeeding, but even if I did, like this unit right here is a very much a skill based kind of unit, which is kind of weird to say, but like I would play my drafts so well that even if a Knockwall outspeeds me and does their S3 and resets me, Pirate Flan can S1 for Soulburn extra turn, and then she, you know, she's on reset now, can now S3 and bomb the team. I would even take her into 8 Tywins because her burn gets cleansed first, which means her bomb stays on 8 Tywin teams. And then, you know, she gets 50% CR push. So say I pair Pirate Flan with Gala. Like I mentioned earlier, Gala I have at 270 speed. She kind of acts as a tempo unit. This is that tempo. So Pirate Flan goes first, I bomb an entire enemy team, I'm pushing back the Laya, I'm pushing back the Knockwall and all that. They're all getting pushed back, they're all getting a bomb on them. Then I follow up with like Gala, who then CR pushes my Pirate Flan back up to the top of the CR bar because she's already at 50. So now she's taken another turn, and if I have souls still, then I can just bomb things one by one. 3.3k attack with attack buff is actually a substantial amount of damage on her and can kill units. And this is especially good into Janua teams because how you play against the Janua teams with Pirate Flan, you make sure you have a soul burn. So that's why I always paired it with Zeo, because, you know, book. You soul burn S1 into Janua, the bomb detonates. Janua's now at half HP, but he's stunned. Then you S3, the S3 now hits the Janua, procs his Wild Dog Company while he's stunned, and then further pushes him back. So even if Laya cleanses at that point, you procced Janua's Wild Dog Company turn 1 before anything even happens, before any cleanse can happen. So like Janua's just useless now. Like it's insane how good Pirate Flan is for these teams I was using her into. And then, you know, even into the more risky teams, this is where This is especially where it becomes sort of like a skill-based thing. And just to put it out there, I am ignoring 15% for these teams I'm talking about, because 15% does happen. It did happen. I lost because of it, but we're not talking about that. Because I still won more often than not. But let's say the enemy team takes Aiden. Well, of course, Aiden has a counterattack if you hit her and miss, which is like, oh, that would prevent my Pirate Flame from using his 3. Not really. I can still kind of treat Aiden like I can Janua. Because of this artifact here, it doesn't matter if I miss or not. So if the Aiden doesn't have immunity, I Soulburn S1, bomb the Aiden, but it's even better than fighting Janua, because I pair my Pirate Flame and my Cleaves with ML Senya. Like, so now we're going down like this whole like web of thoughts here of how I played this unit. So if I play into something like Aiden that counters me, well, I Soulburn S1, it procs Aiden's counter. Aiden counters my Pirate Flame, damages her since she's squishy, which then procs my ML Senya, so now ML Senya is immune to knockwall or anything else on the team, and has her really hard-hitting AoE attack with fixed damage. And then, after the Aiden gets stunned at the end of the turn after her counter, then my Pirate Flame can just S3 as normal, push back the team, and then if Senya's going next or somebody else, then I'm just like team wiping them at that point. And it's like crazy. It's crazy how much thought I put into these teams and how to make Pirate Flame work like this. Like my VODs that have a lot of videos on her, and maybe I'll try to edit together some compilation for her someday. I've just been incredibly busy. But Pirate Flame by far has been my #1 favorite unit to use this season. It is hilariously strong, and barely anyone believes me on it. Because, like, you know, you talk to any of the other Emperor Legend players, any of the other streamers, they're gonna be like, no, Pirate Flame sucks. You can barely ever pick her. Bro, I made her into her own meta. I created her own meta within the season just by using her the way I wanted to. Like, I had so much fun using her. And I even inspired a lot of people in my Twitch chat to start building her as well. And they were saying they were getting a lot of wins with her. Like, it's pretty great, right? Like, okay, like, I mean, yeah. I'm just proud that I invented my own tech without the help of, you know, like asking other people what to do and whatnot. It's just a proud moment for me. I became known as the Pirate Flame Cleaver. Like, the Pirate Flame Cleaver. You know, I'm just proud of it. anyways, we can move on now. Yeah, this is my win rate rather, by the way. This includes the testing phasing, because, you know, I didn't just, like, kind of like I was talking about with my BBK, you can't always trust the win rates, right? So yeah, like, beginning of the season, I wasn't perfect at drafting her. It took a lot of testing, and even with a lot of testing, I managed to come out on top with a positive win rate. Like, that's pretty impressive. To have a unit that's deemed not meta, not good, and then I go through an entire testing cycle and get a bad win rate with her, and then still come out on top? Like, that kind of proves just how good she is with the way that I used her and how well I played her. Next up, we have Sea Phantom Politis. I didn't really pick her that much this season, honestly. Incredibly strong unit, though. I just didn't like picking her. But yeah, she's as strong as ever since her release, really. Incredibly powerful first pick, third pick, wherever you want to pick her. Just make sure you know what you're doing with the team, pairing her with a Tywin, DDR, and all that. I mean, Janua. Very, very strong. Pair with Landy as well for the dual attack comp. But yeah, those are my stats. Everyone else has usually better polys than mine, because again, I wasn't really picking her. This is my funny Requiem Rwana. I did pick her a lot with my Pirate Flame as a backup book, in case Zio was banned, if I didn't third pick Zio. She also pairs really well with Pirate Flame, because if I didn't take something like Gala, I would take Rwana, right? So then I have Zio, who's S3 pushes back, then I have Pirate Flame push back, then I have Rwana push back. So if they have like Laya, dude, that thing's at like 0 on the CR bar, basically. Like, basically the beginning of the season, I heavily played into CR manipulation, but not my own, but pushing back the enemies is how I played. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it worked out pretty good for me for the most part. Top model, I did try to use her a bit. She's kind of hard to use still, really. She's pretty good into RB. I mean, hey, you know, with the RB coming back, Extinction Unit also comes back. She was a pretty good book holder, though. Sometimes I paired with Pirate Flan or Zeo if they don't have really bulky teams. She proved to be a pretty good threat. I had her on better gear. I did nerf her a little bit, but this is still pretty good gear nonetheless. This is my Zeo. Zeo I used as a hybrid build. 3k attack, 260 speed to prevent most Rans from cutting unless they have a ton of speed imprints, you know. 124 effectiveness, could be better. This is enough to debuff most things, generally speaking, especially the faster things that might have ER. But yeah, I thought it was nice keeping some damage while still having some effectiveness. I think that's worth it. Although the effectiveness does feel really valuable, so maybe I'll add more next season, who knows. Alright, then we have our boy Blood Moon Haste. He fared a little bit better than Landy. A little bit better than Landy being a counter unit on my account. But that's just because of how broken he is. I mean, yeah, you get that S1 proc, he dispels a buff, does his extra attack, basically full heals your team for free. Like, this unit is not okay by any means. My stats suck, and this got me into Emperor, guys. Like, these stats suck. This is really bad Blood Moon Haste, but it still worked. He did his job. That's, like, you really don't need that much on him. Just about anything can work, really. A lot of people do the Idol's Cheer as well, especially if you're going, like, aggro or cleave. I did use this in cleave with Celestine, but, I mean, you know, maybe Idol's Cheer would have been better, you know? I didn't really pick him that much. I prefer Senya over him. That's just me. Alright, now next on to my war crime. That's right, I bought DDR with Galaxy coins. And yeah, originally I was using him on a little bit faster, full effectiveness build with no ER. Turns out that kind of sucks. If you can't guarantee turn 1, and if you can't hard control your opponent from turn 1, dude, even getting blinded on DDR sucked. I lost so many games because I got blinded, because I got provoked and all that. Like, I feel like this ER is definitely worth having on him unless you can guarantee that you're going to be turn 1 no matter what. Thing with DDR though is he is probably one of the best units in the game by far because of how versatile he is. He's got the sleeps, he's got the injury, he's got CR push. You can put him on Wonders Potion Vial for a debuff cleanse. You can put him on Guardian Ice Crystals. You can put him on Soul Constellation if he's fast to try to cut people. Like, the reason this unit is so broken is because he's got the injury for the slow teams. He's got the CR push for the tempo teams. He's got the sleeps to control people. Like, you can build him almost any way you want. Just build him to work with your account the way it works best. He is just absolutely broken. It's kind of baffling. All in all though, I didn't really like picking him because I don't want to play him. I want to keep doing my own thing. I didn't want to play him. So I kind of kept losing with him because I would force him into drafts where he didn't work. Here's my Rylet. I think he got downgraded again. I'm pretty sure he's bugged. Of course I can't prove this, but I am pretty sure he's bugged and his evasion is not actually built in now. I think it's just not there. Like, I honestly don't believe there's any evasion at all in his kit. I picked him a lot, and he got hit an insane amount of times. Remember, I told you, my BBK dodged with 20% a lot. Rylet got hit basically every single time I used him, like turn 1, turn 2, like... I don't know, man, I'm just saying, SG. I'm just saying, I think you messed up on the coding. I think his evasion is bugged. I'm just putting it out there. Just saying, guys, just saying. I did actually forget to go over my Sermia. Apologize for that, and also I didn't do my hair. I got sick today, and I'm just kind of like trying to wrap up the video. So yeah, now I kind of look like a emo guy from a 2000s grunge band. But basically, here's my Sermia as well. It's pretty good stats here. Speed Torrent, I paired this for when I was using my Ran Cleave at the end of the season. I think I only got like a few games with her, but honestly, like, it's pretty so strong, I think. I liked using this. This is kind of a cheat ring. But yeah, I have her 220 speed, 2k defense, almost 300 crit damage on portrait. It's really good for team wiping with Ran, especially because I ran effectiveness Ran. All right. I believe that does it for my unit review for this RTA season, though. Big fan of the frame, big fan of the BBK, big fan of the Pirate Flan. I want to thank you guys for tuning into my unit review. Please feel free to share any comments down below if you have any questions, any criticisms about anything I've said. I'm happy to kind of discuss with anyone if they have questions or need advice. Feel free to ask. Definitely hit me up on Twitch while I'm streaming. I'm usually streaming more than I'm making videos. So if you do need any help, or if you're like curious about any builds I've done or have any questions of your own, feel free to reach out for sure. I'll try to answer any of the comments down in the comment section below, or in Twitch chat, or in my Discord as well, which you can find on my Twitch. I'll maybe try to link it here as well. Other than that, feel free to check out my unit review from last time. I will have it in the description down below as well if you want to check it out. I know this video is kind of longer. There's a lot more to talk about. Also feel free to let me know about any fun units you've built. I told you guys about my triple torn BBK. I told you about my Pirate Flan tech. Yeah, let me know if there's anything fun you guys are doing. I'm gonna make another video about that, going over kind of like fun versus meta kind of stuff, so keep an eye out for that as well. But yeah, thank you all for hanging out with me today. I appreciate it, and have a great rest of your days, nights, wherever you're at. Make sure you shower, brush your teeth. Follow me on Twitch, please. I love you. Tell me why ain't nothing but a heartache. Tell me why ain't nothing but a mistake. Tell me why I never wanna hear you say I want it. Oh, shit.